Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. In this one, I will discuss as well as break down the ultimate best class setup for the CR-56 AMAX assault rifle here in Call of Duty Warzone. So the AMAX assault rifle, easily one of the most famous or infamous depending on how you look at it, assault rifles in Warzone. Of course, the AMAX has been in Warzone for a little while now, being that we originally saw it being added into the game with the Season 4 Battle Pass for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and quite frankly, the AMAX has always been a top tier assault rifle in this game, and I've always enjoyed using it. And of course, within the past couple of weeks, a lot of people have been talking about the AMAX because ever since late April with the release of Season 3, Raven Software has stated that they were going to be nerfing the AMAX in Warzone. Then, of course, a couple of weeks on, the AMAX did end up getting nerfed. However, the nerf was very slight, and a lot of people would agree that the AMAX is still a top tier assault rifle in the game. And if you were to watch any competitive Warzone matches, you would see that a lot of people are still using the AMAX assault rifle. And that's how come I wanted to check it out as well as do a best class setup on it in today's video. As you guys can see throughout the gameplay, I am going to be using the AMAX assault rifle with the MAC-10, and it's honestly an incredible combination. I'll get to that a little bit later in this video. So with that said, if you guys go on to enjoy today's video, make sure you leave the like on it down below, as well as subscribe and turn on post notifications so that way you guys will not miss any of the latest and greatest Call of Duty news, class slips, and all kinds of things like that. So without further ado, now that I got the intro out of the way, let's dive right into it. And alright guys, so of course to kick off today's video, let's talk a little bit about the CR-56 AMAX assault rifle. Of course, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video, the CR-56 is a DLC assault rifle from Modern Warfare Season 4. Now that said, if you guys played Season 4 and you made it up to Tier 31 in the Battle Pass, of course you are going to be unlocking the CR-56 AMAX. Now that said, you may be a little bit newer to Warzone and you weren't playing back then, and if that's the case, you really don't have to worry, because if you want to unlock this assault rifle, you just need to complete a rather simple challenge in either Modern Warfare multiplayer or Warzone, which states get 3 gun butt kills while using an assault rifle in 10 different matches. So that said, circling back and talking more about the AMAX, one thing that a lot of people like about the AMAX is its damage and incredibly fast time to kill at medium to longer range engagements. And the reason why this weapon is really good, however, it's not entirely overpowered, is because of the recoil. And that's because a lot of new players will struggle with the recoil, as it can be a little bit sporadic, and in addition to the standard vertical recoil, it has some significant horizontal recoil and shake, and because of that reason, it can be a little bit hard to manage. But once you use the CR-56 AMAX for a little while, you can really master the recoil pattern and untap this weapon's long range potential. And that's one thing that myself and many other people like about the AMAX, and as this weapon has a legitimate learning curve. Unlike other prominent weapons in this game like the FFAR, DMR-14, M16, or AUG, those weapons were extremely good, however, anyone could use them. But unlike that, the AMAX actually takes a little bit of skill and some practice for you to really get the maximum potential out of this weapon. And interestingly enough, this particular attribute was recognized by Raven Software, being that when this weapon did end up getting nerfed back in early May, all that was changed about the weapon is that its minimum damage was decreased from 32 to 31, as well as the fastest minimum time to kill for the AMAX was reduced by 17%, and they explicitly said that a lot of people like using this weapon and they realized the learning curve of it, so that's how come no attribute of this weapon was changed at those medium to longer range engagements, and that's how come a lot of people are still using it to this day. Also, quick editor's note, I recorded the main commentary of this video yesterday, which was May 26th. However, when I was editing today's video, the AMAX did end up getting nerfed one more time, being that the headshot multiplier of this weapon was reduced from 1.62 to 1.5, and that said, the AMAX is still a really good assault rifle after the nerf, and everything that I mentioned in this video still stands true. However, I just want to put that out there for you guys that are wondering, and with that said, enjoy the rest of the commentary. And that's where we circle back to the class setup that I'm going to be running in today's video, and as you can tell, the class setup is on your screen right now. So breaking it down a little bit, of course, for my primary weapon, I will be using the legendary confession blueprint for the AMAX, which if you don't have this blueprint, it's really not too big of a deal. You can just use this standard variation or any other blueprint. Moving on down, for my secondary weapon, I will be using the MAC-10 submachine gun, which I will get to a little bit later in this video. And I do quickly want to mention that I will be using the legendary gallantry version of it, and that's just because the iron sights of the gallantry blueprint are significantly better than the base variation. But if you don't have this particular blueprint, it's really not too big of a deal, as you can still use the standard variation and absolutely dominate with it. Moving on down, for my perk setup, I will be using double time, overkill, as well as battle hardened. Lethal is going to be the throwing knife, and my tactical will be the heartbeat sensor. So with that said, let's break down the attachments I am going to be running on my CR-56 AMAX. For my first attachment, I will be using the monolithic suppressor, which will be increasing the sound suppression as well as damage range, and will overall make this weapon a little bit more effective at those medium to longer range engagements. And of course, the monolithic suppressor is a good attachment on pretty much any Modern Warfare weapon in Warzone, as of course it will be keeping us off the radar. In addition to that, moving on down for my second attachment, I will be using the XRK Zodiac S440 barrel. Yes, that's a little bit of a mouthful. However, as you can likely tell, this particular attachment will be increasing the damage range, bullet velocity, as well as recoil control, overall making this a rather stellar attachment, and that's how come I will be running it on my AMAX. Moving on down, of course, my next attachment, I will be using the VLK 3x optic. That, of course, will allow us to be a little bit more precise when using this weapon, and to be entirely frank, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with the standard iron sights of the AMAX. However, if you put on the VLK 3x optic, it's going to allow us to be a little bit more precise at those medium to longer range engagements, which comes in very handy, and you will be seeing that throughout the gameplay. Also, I would like to quickly mention something, and that is in addition to me using the VLK 3x optic, I'm also going to be using the T-pose reticle, as it's overall a lot cleaner of a reticle, as it just simply has a horizontal as well as a vertical line, making it extremely clean as well as a lot easier to get kills at those longer range engagements. Moving on down, of course, my next attachment, I will be using the Commando foregrip, which will be increasing the recoil stabilization as well as aiming stability. Now guys, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video, the AMAX has some horizontal recoil as well as it shakes around a little bit, so if you put on this particular attachment, it is of course going to be increasing the recoil stabilization as well as aiming stability, so overall it's just going to stabilize the weapon a lot more, which is extremely useful on the AMAX. Now that said, let's move on down and talk about my final attachment, which of course will be the 45 round magazine, which will be increasing the magazine size of this weapon from 30 rounds to 45 rounds, and will overall prove very effective, as with 45 round magazine, you can very confidently take out 2 or even possibly 3 opponents without having to reload, which is extremely useful. So now let's move on down and talk a little bit about the attachments I am going to be running on my MAC 10. Of course, my first attachment, I will be using the agency suppressor. Next attachment will be the 5.9 inch task force barrel. Third attachment will be the Tiger Team spotlight laser. Fourth attachment will be the striker grip, and the final attachment will be the 53 R&D drum magazine. Now let me just say, in my time of playing Black Ops Cold War as well as Warzone, I've tried out a multitude of different MAC 10 class setups, and without a doubt, this one has to be the absolute best class setup that I ever used for the MAC 10, and that's what I would highly recommend using it. So with that said guys, that's going to effectively conclude the class setup portion of today's video, and before I end off the commentary overall, I would like to talk a little bit about this class setup as well as how these two weapons really interact. And of course, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video, the AMAX is really good at those medium to longer range engagements, especially if you're able to land a headshot, which in that case you are going to be dropping opponents extremely quickly. However, the main downside of using the AMAX are those close range engagements, and that's where the MAC 10 comes in. So what you're going to be wanting to do is use the AMAX for those medium to longer range engagements. However, once you get into those closer range engagements, pull out the MAC 10 submachine gun, and then you can take down those opponents and then finish them off with a throwing knife. So overall, this class setup is a lot of fun to use, and it has been my absolute go-to class setup for just about a week now. So if you guys haven't already checked it out, make sure you go ahead and do so. And yeah guys, with that said, that's going to effectively wrap up this video. I hope you went on to enjoy it, and if you did, don't forget to leave the like on it down below, as well as subscribe and turn on post notifications so that way you guys will not miss any of the latest and greatest Call of Duty news, class subs, and all kinds of things like that. So once again, that's going to effectively wrap up this video. I'm your host, Teeper Jungle, and I hope to see you in the next one.